They say sisters are your first best friend, and for most of my life I believed that. Because if anyone had asked me who my person was, I would have said her name without a second thought. Jessica. We were only 14 months apart, close enough to share clothes, secrets, dreams, but different enough to fight over just about everything. She was the loud one, the charming one, the girl who walked into a room and made the lights dim just so her voice could be louder. I was a quieter sister, the planner, the one who remembered birthdays, folded the laundry right, and never, ever took the last piece of cake. Our parents always said we balanced each other. Like fire and water. But no one ever told me what happens when fire gets greedy and decides to boil the water dry. I met David when I was 8. It wasn't a grand love story. No meet cute in a bookstore or dramatic rain-soaked kiss. It was a small dinner party hosted by a coworker, a shared bottle of wine, and a conversation that lasted long after the plates were cleared. He was kind, thoughtful, and most importantly, he listened. After 2 years of dating, we got engaged in the most me way possible, a private moment. Just the two of us in our living room, surrounded by books and candles. No grand gestures. Just a simple question. Would you keep planning life with me? And I said yes. That same night, I called Jessica. She screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Finally, she shouted, "Do I get to be maid of honor or what?" I laughed. "Of course, you were always going to be." She immediately launched into wedding ideas, themes, colors, playlists. She was more excited than me, or at least louder about it. A week later, I invited her over. There was one thing I wanted to show her, something that had been tucked in the back of my closet for years, a secret hope I never told anyone, not even David. It was my mother's wedding dress. Her mom had passed away when we were in college, and before she died, she gave me her gown. "Maybe I'll wear it one day," she had whispered. Too weak to hold my hand. I kept it hidden for years. Not because I was ashamed, but because it felt sacred. Like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. When I showed it to Jessica, her breath caught. "Oh my God," she whispered, fingers grazing the lace. "It's beautiful." "I know," I said. I was thinking I could wear it, or maybe even have it tailored a little. "What do you think?" She turned to me slowly. "You know, if you don't mind, maybe I could try it on too." I paused. It felt personal, but she looked so eager, so sincere, and she was my sister. What was mine had always been hers too, right? I nodded. "Of course. Just be careful with the zipper, it's a little delicate." She disappeared into my room with the dress. I waited on the couch, heart full, already imagining the photo we'd take, me in mom's dress, her beside me in something soft and silver. When she stepped out, I froze. Because in that moment it wasn't a sister trying on her late mother's gown. It was a bride. A full face of makeup I hadn't seen her apply. Heels I didn't know she brought. A smirk playing on her lips that didn't look like awe, it looked like triumph. She twirled. "Don't you think it fits me better than it ever could you?" My laugh faltered. "I thought you were just trying it on for fun." She shrugged. "I was. But, I don't know. It just feels right." She didn't take it off that night, and I always said nothing, because that's what water does, right? It lets fire burn. A week passed, then two. The dress stayed with Jessica. She never returned it, never brought it up again. And I didn't ask. Because deep down, I didn't want to believe what my gut already knew. That she wasn't just trying it on. She was keeping it. I told myself she probably just wanted to admire it for a while. Maybe take it to a tailor. Maybe get inspired for her own future someday. But then, the call came. It was a Saturday morning. David was out grocery shopping, and I was going over vendor spreadsheets. My phone buzzed. "Jessica." I answered with a smile already on my lips. "Hey." She didn't even say hello. "Hey. So? I wanted to run something by you," she said quickly. "I know your wedding isn't until October and it's only March, but, well, Michael and I have decided to just do it soon, a spring wedding, super simple. Backyard style." I blinked. Michael, her new boyfriend, barely 6 months into the picture. The one I'd met twice. "Yeah, we're just kind of ready. You know how it is," she continued, like she hadn't just steamrolled months of my wedding planning. "Oh," I said quietly. "Okay, when exactly are you thinking?" "Next Saturday." My brain scrambled. Next Saturday? 7 days. That's not a wedding, that's a sprint. But I kept my voice calm. "Wow, that's fast." She giggled. "Yeah, but love doesn't wait, right?" Then came the part that finally shattered whatever fragile hope I had left. And I was thinking I could wear mom's dress. Silence, a heavy pause where my heartbeat sounded louder than her words. I swallowed. "Jessica, that's the dress I was going to wear for my wedding." She scoffed. Like I just told her she couldn't borrow a pair of shoes. "Oh, come on, Claire. You're not even getting married for another 6 months. It's just one day. I promise I'll have it cleaned." "That's not the point," I said, my voice shaking now. "It was mom's. She gave it to me. She laughed a short, dry sound. She gave it to us, Claire. Just because you physically had it doesn't mean you own the moment. It's not like you designed it or anything. I felt my throat close. But it's my wedding. She didn't pause. Didn't even blink. Well, now it's mine too. I didn't go to her wedding. I told her I was sick. David understood, though he didn't say much. That morning, I opened Instagram and there it was, a photo of Jessica in the dress. My dress. Lace sleeves, ivory train. The same pearl buttons I had carefully inspected under soft yellow light when I first unboxed it from mom's closet. But this time, they were on her. Not me. Her caption read, "First to the L #married life #my moment." My chest burned. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. I didn't cry. Not then. Because some betrayals don't pull tears from you. They pull silence. Stillness. Like a glass shattered too cleanly to even make a sound. She didn't call me that day. Or the next. No apology, no explanation. And I didn't reach out either. Because what do you say to someone who knew how much something meant to you and chose it? Anyway, mom's dress wasn't just fabric. It was grief wrapped in lace. A memory stitched in silence. A goodbye I wasn't ready for when she handed it to me in the hospital room. Jessica didn't just borrow a dress, she borrowed the ghost of our mother, and wore it before I ever could. The next time I saw her was 3 weeks later. At her father's birthday dinner, she walked in like nothing happened, holding Michael's hand. Laughing, glowing. She sat across from me and said, "You look tired. Claire, everything okay?" I nodded. Because what else was I supposed to say? You stole the one thing I had left of mom. You wore my moment like a crown and told me to find my own. No. I smiled instead. Because that's what quiet sisters do, we smile through the burn. I wish I could say things got better after that. But they didn't. The dress was never returned. Jessica kept it like it had always been hers. She never offered to clean it. Never even acknowledged that it had once been mine to wear. My wedding plans resumed, but everything felt faded. I tried on other gowns, but none of them fit the way mom's did. Not just on my body, but in my soul. That dress had held her scent. The faint whisper of lavender and laundry detergent. It had made me feel wrapped in her arms again. Now, it felt like a second-hand item from a stranger. David noticed one evening, as I stood in front of a mirror, wearing a dress the boutique lady insisted was the one. He tilted his head and said gently, "It's beautiful. But you're not glowing." I tried to smile. I'm tired. But it wasn't fatigue. It was grief. Grief of the pulse. Grief of the zipper and delicate beating that wasn't mine. The wedding day crept closer. Invites went out. Seating charts were finalized. Cake tastings turned into floral appointments, turned into ring fittings. But the excitement that once lit me up from within had dulled, not because of the stress, but because the one person who should have protected my heart the most had decided her moment mattered more than mine. 3 weeks before my wedding, I finally caved. I messaged Jessica a simple text, "Hey, just wondering if you ever had the dress cleaned. I'll be taking it to the preservation place before the wedding." Minutes passed, then an hour. Finally, her reply buzzed through. "Claire, are you serious? I thought we were past this." My fingers tightened around the phone. "Past what? You wearing the dress without asking, claiming it as your own, tagging me in nothing?" She replied instantly, "You're being dramatic. It's a dress, Claire. You act like I stole your life." I stared at that message, my thumb trembling. Then came the follow-up, "Besides, you still have your own wedding. Just find your moment." This wasn't supposed to be a competition. A competition? Was that what this had been for her? Jessica and I weren't always like this. As kids, we shared a room, braided each other's hair, whispered secrets in the dark. After mom died, I'd hoped we'd grow closer. But grief changes people. And somewhere along the line, Jessica started seeing me as a girl who had everything handed to her, even though I worked for every inch of it. Dad paid for her college. I took out loans. She moved back home after every breakup. I rented tiny apartments and ate cereal for dinner. I showed up for her every single time. But when it was my turn, she vanished into a dress that wasn't hers. The next day, a package arrived on my doorstep. It was a dress. No note. No card. No apology. Just a dry cleaner's tag attached to the hanger. I pulled it from the garment bag slowly, hoping it would still feel like home. But it didn't. The lace felt stiffer, the ivory a little dimmer. The scent of lavender was gone. In its place was a faint trace of Jessica's perfume, something floral, sharp, unfamiliar. The dress wasn't mine anymore. Not really. It had been worn, publicly photographed. Celebrated. Claimed. Now it was just a costume for a bride playing catch-up in a wedding she no longer recognized. I hung it in the back of my closet and closed the door. I didn't try it on again. Didn't take it to the preservation place. And when David asked if I'd be wearing it after all, I shook my head. "No," I said simply. "That moment's gone." He nodded, not asking questions. He always knew when silence said more than explanations. Instead, I bought a new dress. One with no legacy. No ghost. No betrayal sewn into the seams. It wasn't Mom's, but it was mine. And maybe that was enough. The bridal shop I found was tucked into the edge of town, small, quiet, almost forgotten. Unlike the upscale boutiques with glass walls and Pinterest-ready lighting, this one felt human, real. The lady behind the counter was in her 60s. She wore reading glasses and a cardigan and smiled with her whole face. She didn't ask for my budget. She asked me how I wanted to feel. That stopped me. No one had asked that before. I blinked, then said, like myself. She nodded slowly, like she understood exactly what that meant, and somehow, she did. After 2 hours and 9 dresses, she brought out a 10th. Not flashy, not trendy. Soft ivory silk, off the shoulder. Buttons down the back. Simple, but honest. Like something I'd pick even if no one else saw it. When I stepped into it, the mirror didn't reflect a girl chasing her sister's shadow. It showed me not Jessica's version of me. Not Mom's daughter or Dad's good girl, just Claire. And for the first time in months, I exhaled. David loved it. When I showed him the picture, even though I wasn't supposed to, he smiled and said, "That's the one I imagined you in. Not because it's fancy, but because it's you." I kissed him, grateful for his steadiness. Grateful he never once asked me to compete, to compare, to pretend. A week before the wedding, I got a text from Jessica. No apology. Just this: "Hope, the wedding goes great. We'll be out of town, but sending love, out of town." I stared at the message like it had a hidden meaning. But there was nothing hidden. She wasn't coming. No gift, no toast, no family photo. Just absence dressed as convenience. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Some silences are louder than shouting. The day of the wedding arrived like sunrise after a storm. Bright, calm, clear. My best friend Alyssa helped zip me into the new dress. She gasped softly, then said, This is you?" I nodded. "It really is." Walking down the aisle, I didn't think about the dress that came before. I didn't think about Jessica. Or lavender. Or loss. I thought about David. About how his eyes crinkled when he smiled. How he touched the small of my back when I was anxious. How he never let me question my worth. Even when the people who should have known better made me doubt it, he stood at the altar, eyes misty, jaw tight, and when he saw me, really saw me, he mouthed, "Wow." That was enough. The ceremony was perfect. Not flashy, not viral, not staged, but filled with real people, real laughter, real love. Aunt May cried so hard her mascara ran. My college roommate spilled wine on her dress during the vows. The flower girl tripped and turned it into a dance. It wasn't curated. It was lived. At the reception, I gave a short toast. I didn't name names, didn't air grievances, but I let something go. I said, weddings aren't just about the dress or the flowers or the perfection. They're about choosing someone who shows up when it's messy, when it's quiet, when no one's watching. Today, I married someone who showed up. And that's all I ever needed. The room clapped and David kissed my hand under the table. Later that night, I found a DM from Jessica. It just said, "Saw the pictures. You looked nice." Nice, that word hit different now. Not beautiful, not radiant, not happy. Just nice. I closed the message without replying. Let her sit in that distance. The one she created. The one she chose. The one she dressed herself in like ivory lace that didn't belong to her. That night, I danced with my husband under string lights. Shoes off, hair pin loose, dress wrinkled from hugs. And I thought, maybe this is the moment Jessica was trying to steal. But the truth, you can't steal what was never yours to begin with. The honeymoon was quiet. Just a cabin by the lake in Vermont. No signal. No drama, just us. We cooked pasta together in the tiny kitchen, danced barefoot to old jazz, and read novels side by side under wool blankets. And at night, when everything slowed down, David would pull me into his arms and whisper, "You made it here, with or without them." I clung to those words like they were stitched into the hem of my new life. When we came back, real life resumed like it never paused. I returned to teaching fourth graders who had more heart than most adults. I knew. David dove back into architectural planning. Long nights, rolled up sleeves, ink on his palms. We built routines like bricks, slow, steady, careful. No interruptions. Until Thanksgiving. It was the first family holiday since the wedding. Mom sent out the group text like always, dinner at 3, bring your appetites and your best pies. There were smiley faces and turkey emojis. Like nothing had happened, like Jessica hadn't ghosted the wedding or hijacked my dress. Like we were still that family. David saw the message and raised an eyebrow. "You sure you want to go?" I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted to skip it, to stay home with cranberry candles and just David. But the other part of me, the part that still longed to be included, Couldn't let go that easily. I need to go. I finally said. Not for her, for me. We arrived with pumpkin pie and cranberry sauce from scratch. Mom greeted us at the door like she hadn't ignored the elephant in every room. Oh my gosh, Claire. You look great. Marriage suits you. I smiled politely. Thanks, Mom. She didn't mention the wedding. Didn't ask about the photos or the vows or the people who weren't there. Like if she avoided it long enough, it would vanish. Jessica arrived late. As usual. Hair blown out. Nails perfect, a Chanel scarf tied just so. I noticed she didn't wear her ring. Interesting. She hugged Mom. Air kissed Aunt May. Then finally looked at me. Claire, she said flatly. You look settled. I blinked. Is that a compliment? She smirked. Sure. David squeezed my hand under the table. I took a breath. The rest of dinner was a blur of green bean casserole and conversations that skimmed the surface like skipping stones. Nobody dove deep. Nobody mentioned the wedding. But the tension hung in the room like gravy gone cold after dessert. While people watched football or napped with pie crumbs on their sweaters, I found Jessica in the kitchen alone. She was rinsing plates, staring out the window. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You didn't have to do what you did. She didn't turn around. Did what? I laughed, short, sharp. Wear my dress. Post it like that. Ghost the wedding, pretend it didn't matter. Now she faced me, eyes steady. Chin lifted. You act like the world revolves around your big moments, Claire. But I had mine too. I swallowed. You could have had them without taking mine. Silence. Then, softer, she said. You always had it easier. That stopped me. What? You were always a good one, the teacher. The sweet girl. The one who brought home guys Mom approved of. The one who got praised for doing nothing. I shook my head, stunned. You think I had it easy? I had to fight for attention, she said, for space. You just existed. And everyone loved you. I stared at her, breath caught. You think I didn't bleed for it? I whispered, for approval, for space. I stayed small so you could feel big. I gave you the dress so you'd feel special. I stepped back every time. She didn't respond. And for once, I didn't wait for her to. That night, David and I drove home in silence. Not the awkward kind, the peaceful kind that only happens when you've said what needed saying. He glanced at me once, then said, I'm proud of you. I looked out the window, stars smeared across the sky like forgiveness. I'm proud of me too. December came quietly that year. No family drama, no grand gestures, just snow collecting like silence on the roof of our little apartment. David brought home a tiny tree from the farmer's market. We decorated it with hand-me-down ornaments and cinnamon sticks tied with string. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something. Not approval, not apology. Just life, simple, honest, mine. One night, while grading papers at the kitchen table, I got a notification on my phone. Instagram, Jessica tagged you in a post. My stomach dropped. It had been months since we'd spoken. We hadn't followed each other since the wedding mess. Whatever this was, it couldn't be casually. Hesitated before tapping it. Heart already racing. The photo was of a white box. Inside it, a bundle of lace, delicate, folded, and unmistakable. My dress. The caption read, some things never fit the same once they've been worn the wrong way, returning what was borrowed. Find your moment, Claire. I stared at it. Frozen, confused, a little bit hollow. What did that mean? An apology, a dig? A cryptic half-step toward making things right? That she wasn't playing victim to extract a loan so she could live out her island fantasy? I stared at the message, the chill in her words, the gall. Haley, besides, it was your apartment. Mason and I. It was stressful, we needed to reset, and it's not like I asked for more. I wanted to scream, but no sound came. Instead, I did what I always did when my heart shattered. I called my mom. I think I've been conned, I said. Voice hollow. She listened as I explained everything. Not saying a word. When I was done, she let out a slow breath. Oh, honey, some people don't deserve your kindness. And some don't know how to receive it without turning it into leverage. She's acting like I offered her a vacation. You offered her grace. She used it as a ticket. That line stuck with me. Used it as a ticket that afternoon. I logged into Venmo and saw her account still connected to mine. No pending payments. No activity. Nothing. She'd vanished financially. I opened Instagram and typed out a long post. Then deleted it. I wasn't ready for war. Not yet. But I was ready to reclaim something, anything. That night, Ethan came home with Thai takeout. And cautious eyes. Still no word. He asked. I shook my head, then handed him my phone. He read the messages, the screenshots, the captions. His face darkened as he went through them. This wasn't a misunderstanding, he said. She used you, intentionally. I feel stupid. You're trusting. That's not a flaw. It's just, she never deserved it. I looked at him then, the way his jaw tightened in quiet rage. The way his hands curled like he wanted to punch someone for me. And I realized he was the kind of friend I'd been to Haley. He didn't ask questions. He stood by me. Later that night, I opened a notes app and began typing out the story, every detail, every dollar, every moment of deception. I wasn't going to post it, not yet, but writing it felt like reclaiming my voice. By midnight, I had 3 pages. By morning, I had the title. I loaned my friend $80,000 to save her apartment. She used it for her honeymoon. Because that's what happened, and maybe the world deserved to know. I wasn't looking for sympathy. Just truth. And maybe, just maybe, a little justice. I didn't post the story right away. I just let it sit there in my notes app, untouched but heavy like a letter you write, but never send. Every time I opened my phone, it was there waiting, daring me. But something inside me shifted. I started seeing the world a little clearer, like fog lifting from a window. You didn't know was dirty. At work, I was quieter. At lunch, I ignored the usual group chat notifications. Haley was in that group too, and even though she hadn't said anything directly, she was still active there, still posting memes, still pretending like everything was fine. Like $80,000 hadn't just disappeared, like she hadn't spat in the face of the person who saved her. Then one afternoon, a friend from college messaged me, "Hey, did Haley actually get evicted, or was that all fake?" Just wondering because she just posted a buying our dream home update. I stared at the message, my hands trembling. Dream home. That was the final crack. I opened my notes, copied the entire story, and pasted it into a Facebook post. I added the screenshots, carefully redacted addresses and personal info. But everything else was real. Venmo confirmation, her text calling me dramatic, the vacation pictures, the engagement announcement. And I clicked post. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. People from our friend group texted me, some shocked, some ashamed they hadn't noticed. A few admitted they'd loaned Haley money to, smaller amounts, but always with similar sob stories. One girl sent me a screenshot of a message Haley had sent her just weeks before my loan. "Can you spot me $300 for rent? Mason got into a car accident and we're short." Same story, different version, same manipulation. I wasn't alone. But strangely, that didn't make me feel better. It just made me ache deeper. For all of us who believed in her, for the girl I thought she was. Haley finally messaged me 2 days after the post went viral. "You could have just come to me. You didn't have to humiliate me like this." No apology, just deflection. I didn't reply. A day later, I got an email from a local podcast that focused on financial betrayal. They asked if I'd be willing to share my story anonymously. I thought about it for a night, then said yes. Because if even one person paused before handing over their life savings to a friend in crisis, maybe it would be worth it. I recorded the episode under the name Rachel, changed all the identifiers, but the story was the same. A friend cried on my couch. I handed her a lifeline. She bought a ring and boarded a plane. And I was left cleaning up the mess. When the episode aired, the response was overwhelming. Emails, DMs, comments. Hundreds of people, mostly women, saying they'd lived through the same betrayal. Some from friends, some from family. I wasn't alone. But more importantly, I wasn't silent anymore. A week later, I got served. Haley was suing me for defamation. Ethan was furious. "She's suing you for telling the truth. She says I damaged her reputation and caused emotional distress. You should have caused more." My lawyer, a friend of Ethan's cousin, reviewed everything I posted. "She's bluffing," he said. "She'd have to prove what you posted was false, and it's all backed up." Still, the stress was unbearable. Nights were long. Days blurred together. But something strange happened during all this. I started smiling again. Not because I was okay, I wasn't, but because I had stopped pretending. I had stopped swallowing betrayal like it was my fault, and that was something. The legal drama dragged on longer than I expected. Emails back and forth, threats, formal letters, and silence in between, the kind that made your stomach knot every time your phone buzzed. Haley's lawyer sent a demand for a public apology and $20,000 for reputational damage. My lawyer laughed out loud reading it. "She's just trying to scare you into settling. Don't even respond." But it scared me anyway. What if the court sided with her? What if telling the truth came with a bigger price than staying quiet? Ethan could tell I wasn't sleeping. He moved in with me for a while, not officially, but enough to bring me Thai food after meetings and rub my shoulders. While I stared blankly at my inbox, one night, I asked him something that had been haunting me. "Do you think I made it worse by going public?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He closed the laptop on the couch, set his drink down, and looked at me with the kind of seriousness that made my throat close. "You didn't make it worse. Haley made it worse when she betrayed you. You're just done pretending that didn't happen." I cried harder than I had in weeks. Not because I was sad, But because I was tired of carrying the blame a few weeks later, we got notice that Haley's lawyer had withdrawn from the case. No explanation, just a formal statement. Ethan fist pumped. In the kitchen, she can't afford the fees, she probably thought you'd roll over. But I didn't, not this time. The podcast episode kept climbing in streams. Listeners wrote in with their own stories. Friends who scammed them out of tuition money. Cousins who faked illnesses for cash. Exes who took out loans in their name. It was as if my story had become a mirror for people who never got to scream into the void. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a voice, still. Some nights I couldn't sleep. I'd scroll back to Haley's old texts, trying to pinpoint where things shifted. Where I stopped being her friend and started being her opportunity. One night, I found a message I'd missed in all the chaos. It was from her fiancé, Mason. He'd send it a week after I posted the story. For what it's worth, I didn't know the money was a loan. She told me her parents helped her. I'm sorry. It didn't make me feel better, but it made things clearer. Haley hadn't just lied to me. She lied to everyone. About everything. Eventually, the defamation thread fizzled out. No court date, no apology, nothing but silence. I heard she and Mason moved to Florida, bought a fixer-upper with the leftover money, started some kind of travel blog, the usual curated nonsense, smiling beach photos, soft sunset filters, grateful captions, but this time it didn't sting. It felt empty. Because no matter how far she ran, I wasn't chasing anymore. I started going to therapy. At first, I thought it'd just be for a few sessions, process the betrayal, move on. But the more I talked, the more I realized how many cuts I'd been bandaging alone. How many moments I gaslight myself into silence. How many times I thought being a good friend meant shrinking my voice to let someone else scream. It wasn't just about Haley anymore. It was about all the pieces of myself I gave away freely, thinking love meant loss. Therapy helped me put them back together. Not perfectly, but honestly. Ethan encouraged me to start writing again, tell more stories. The world needs your voice. I started a blog, nothing big, just a place to put my thoughts. But people read it, shared it, left comments like, this is exactly what happened to me, and you gave me the courage to say no. Every post felt like a stitch. Healing, slow, deliberate. I never got the $80,000 back. But I got something else, clarity, and the understanding that my worth isn't measured by what people take, but by what I choose to rebuild. Months passed and life began to settle. The chaos faded into memory, but not into forgetfulness. I didn't forgive Haley, at least not in the traditional sense. But I forgave myself for not seeing it coming, and that was enough for now. I had started writing more consistently. My blog developed a small, loyal following, not thousands, but hundreds who genuinely engaged, who reached out with messages like, your story saved me from lending my brother money I knew I'd never see again. You helped me walk away from a toxic friendship I was clinging to out of guilt. Their words were more healing than any courtroom verdict could have been. One afternoon, as I sat in my favorite coffee shop, sipping chai and editing my latest post, I heard a voice I hadn't expected in months. Jess? I looked up. And there she was. Haley. She looked tired. Her hair was lighter now, her makeup heavier, and her smile uncertain. I stared at her, my hands tightening around the warm ceramic of my cup. I didn't think I'd run into you here, she said, adjusting the strap on her designer purse. Neither did I replied evenly. She hesitated for a second, as if weighing whether to sit or run. Then, without waiting for permission, she slid into the seat across from me. I wanted to say something. I know you probably hate me. I didn't respond. I wanted to see where this would go without leading her anywhere. Haley continued, eyes darting to her hands. I didn't think it would blow up like it did. I panicked when you told everyone. I thought, maybe if I stayed quiet, it would all go away. I gave a dry chuckle. That's funny. I thought if I stayed quiet, I'd keep my best friend. Her face flushed with shame. For once, the performance seemed to crack. She wasn't the bold, curated version of herself I'd known. She was just a woman with too many lies and nowhere left to run. I was scared, she said quietly. Mason still doesn't know the whole truth. So you're still lying? No, not lying, just not bringing it up. That's the same thing. Haley, she nodded, tears welling up. I could see she was hoping for some redemption, some sign that I'd reach across the table and offer her grace. But I didn't. I let the silence hang. She wiped her eyes. I know I can't fix it. I know I ruined everything. But I just wanted you to know I'm sorry, and I miss you. I finally looked at her, really looked at her. I don't miss who you became. I miss who I thought you were. She winced like I'd slapped her. But I didn't feel cruel. I felt honest. And honesty was something I denied myself for too long in our friendship. Haley stood up, visibly shaken. I hope you find peace, Jess, she whispered. I already have, and I meant it. She laughed and I returned to my blog post, the cursor Blinked on a half-finished sentence. Healing doesn't always come with closure. It comes when you stop needing it. I smiled, then typed the rest. 2 weeks later, something unexpected arrived. An envelope. Hand addressed, no return label. Inside was a check, $10,000. No note. No signature, just the money. I stared at it for a long time, my fingers trembling. It didn't even cover a fraction of what she owed. But it told me something. Haley knew she was wrong. She didn't need to say it. Her silence this time said enough. I deposited the check. Not out of desperation, but out of dignity. It was minor, not through friendship, but through the strength it took to demand better. I used the money to fund a writing retreat in Oregon. Ethan came with me. We hiked. We laughed, we kissed under trees so tall they made us feel small in the best way. One night, as we sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, and listening to the wind whisper through the pines, he turned to me and said, "You know, if this hadn't happened, you might still be stuck in that friendship." I nodded, I know. And maybe I needed to lose something to finally find myself. The retreat changed something in me. Not just creatively but fundamentally for the first time in years. I was living without the weight of someone else's expectations, without walking on eggshells, without second-guessing my worth. I stopped looking at relationships through the lens of how can I prove myself, and started asking, does this feel safe? I wrote every morning at dawn. The cabin overlooked a misty lake that felt like a portal into peace. Ethan and I would share coffee in silence, content in each other's company. There were no grand declarations, no drama, just steady affection. He read drafts of my essays and gave feedback like I mattered. He didn't flatter. He didn't sugarcoat. He just told me the truth, and somehow, that became the most romantic thing in the world. One afternoon, as I finished a post about betrayal and boundaries, my inbox pinged. A message from a publication I'd pitched months ago. Subject, we'd love to publish your piece. I stared, stunned. They were offering $500 for the story I'd written about Haley, the same one she'd once accused me of exaggerating. They said it captured the pain and complexity of modern friendships with honesty and grace. I forwarded the email to Ethan, who replied instantly, "Told you, the truth always lands." That night, we walked into town to celebrate. A little wine bar, fairy lights overhead, soft jazz playing in the background. I wore a dress I hadn't dared wear since the whole ordeal. The color reminded me of the sunrise at the cabin, hopeful and gentle. "You seem lighter," Ethan said as he poured the last of our wine. "I feel it." I smiled. As we walked back, hand in hand, he stopped me under the biggest oak on the trail. It arched overhead like nature's cathedral. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small velvet box. "No, wait up," my breath caught. "Before you panic," he said, chuckling at my wide eyes. "It's not what you think." He opened the box. Inside was a silver ring, not a diamond, no sparkle, no flash. Just engraved letters inside. "Found in the fire. I'm not asking you to marry me," he said. "Not yet? Maybe not ever if that's not what you want. But I am asking, can we keep walking together? Through whatever comes next." Tears welled in my eyes. "Yes," I whispered. We sealed it with a kiss. No cameras, no Instagram tags, just us. Under the quiet stars. Back home, I published my essay. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of shares, emails from strangers around the world. Women who had also been lied to, betrayed, manipulated by someone they once considered family. One message stood out. I thought I was crazy for cutting off a friend who used me. "Your story reminded me that boundaries aren't cruelty, they're survival." I replied, "You're not crazy. You're finally sane." A few weeks later, I received a text from an unknown number. "Saw your piece. I guess I deserve that." Haley stared at it. "No apology. No ownership. Just that." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't her mirror anymore. I wasn't the girl waiting for validation or remorse. I was a woman who found her voice in the silence Haley left behind. 1 year to the day after I'd loaned Haley the $80,000, I sat down with my accountant. My blog had evolved into a full-blown platform. I was launching a digital course, Healing After Betrayal: A Writer's Guide to Rebuilding. Pre-orders were strong. A book deal was on the table. I had options. Finally. "Looks like you made back your loan, and then some," my accountant said, smiling. I thought about it for a moment, about the heartbreak, the sleepless nights, the therapy, the journal entry stained with tears. Then I smiled back. "No," I said. "I didn't get my money back." He raised a brow. "I got something better." Months passed. And so did my need for closure. The essay success opened more doors than I could count. Podcasts reached out. Publications asked for interviews. One producer even pitched the idea of adapting my story for a limited streaming series. I laughed nervously when I read that email, but the seed was planted. Maybe my pain could help more people than I'd ever imagined. What had started as heartbreak became a platform, and what once was my silence had turned into a microphone. Still, one morning, I found myself rereading the text from Haley. I guess I deserved that. I'd never answered. But the part of me that used to chase resolution wondered what had happened to her. I clicked on her Instagram, curious but detached. The profile was public again. Same curated aesthetic, soft beige filters, artsy captions, meticulously staged coffee cups. But the tone had shifted. No photos with the husband, none of Bali, nothing remotely joyful. Instead, quotes like "some lessons burned, rock bottom is the foundation I rebuilt on." One post buried halfway down was a selfie, terror-streaked. No filters. Captioned, "Sometimes the price of pretending is everything real slipping through your fingers." For a second, I felt the old tug of empathy, but I knew better than to swim in it instead. I closed the app and opened a blank document. That day, I wrote a new essay, "When Empathy Becomes a Cage," and as my fingers flew across the keyboard, I realized something freeing. You can grieve a person and still protect yourself from them. You can love who they were and still walk away from who they became. 3 months later, I hosted my first in-person retreat. 15 women gathered at the same lakeside cabin where my healing had started. We built fires, wrote letters we'd never send, burned old beliefs, and shared secrets under moonlight. On the final night, I gave each woman a small box with a silver ring inside, no diamonds, just strength on each. The same engraving, found in the fire. One attendee, a quiet woman named Rachel, hugged me with tears in her eyes. "I haven't felt safe in years," she whispered. "But tonight, I do." I hugged her back. Then we're both home. That winter, Ethan and I moved in together. A small home, full of light, full of books, full of coffee mugs with inside jokes. We built it slow. Intentionally, no rush, no performances. One morning, as I watched snow fall outside our window, Ethan slid a letter across the table. It was a simple envelope. I opened it, and inside was a handwritten note. "I don't need a ceremony to know I found my partner. But if you ever want one, I'm ready, no pressure. Just love." I cried, not because I felt lucky, but because I finally felt chosen by someone who saw my scars and didn't flinch. Later that day, I put on the ring he'd given me the night under the oak tree. It was worn now, but beautiful still. Like me, I posted a photo of the ring, not flashy, just resting on my palm with the caption, "This isn't a symbol of being claimed. It's a reminder that I claimed myself first." The comments poured in. Not likes, but love, real women, real stories, real healing. That night, Ethan pulled me into his arms and whispered, "You changed your life." I nodded by finally believing it was worth changing. I never spoke to Haley again. I never got my $80,000 back. But I got my power back. And honestly, that was worth more than any check. The last page of my story wasn't revenge. It wasn't reclaiming money or publicly dragging Haley's name through the mud. It was this, waking up every morning without bitterness in my chest. I had become someone I could be proud of, not because I'd survived heartbreak, but because I'd used it as fuel for something greater. I turned betrayal into a blueprint, pain into purpose. A year to the day after Haley cried on my couch, before Bali, before the ring, before the lie, I stood in front of a full room of strangers, holding a microphone at the Women's Voices conference in Seattle. I scanned the crowd, faces of all ages, colors, stories. Then I spoke. I loaned my friend $80, zero to save her apartment. She used it for her honeymoon, I said, the opening line stripped of shame. Murmurs rippled. Some gasped, others nodded, already knowing where this was going, because they lived their version of it, too. And for a long time, that was the story. I was a fool, the one taken advantage of. But that was never the full truth. The real story started after she lied, when I decided to tell the truth anyway. Applause swelled, not for the pain I shared, but the strength I stood in. Later, women came up to me. One whispered, "I gave my sister my tuition money. She disappeared." Another cried, "My husband left me after draining our joint savings." I thought I'd never get up again. We weren't alone. None of us were. We were just told to stay quiet to avoid being called bitter, dramatic, vengeful. But we were none of those things. We were storytellers. Back home, I framed a photo on my desk. It wasn't of Ethan, or Bali, or even me. It was of a journal page from the cabin retreat. The one where I wrote in shaky ink, "I am not disposable. I am not someone's plot twist. I am the author." Every time doubt crept in about money, worth, love, I looked at that page and remembered I didn't rebuild my life to look perfect. I rebuilt it to feel real. And real is messy. Sometimes it looks like crying in the car after finding out the friend you trusted never valued you. Sometimes it looks like saying no to a reconciliation you once would have begged for, and sometimes it looks like sipping coffee next to a man who never lied to you, while your inbox fills with women who finally feel seen. On what would have been Haley's one-year wedding anniversary, I got a message request, her name. No profile picture. No bio, just, "I messed up, I see that now. I hope you're okay." I read it. I didn't reply, not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I'd already forgiven her quietly. Long ago in a way she might never understand. Forgiveness didn't mean returning the friendship. It meant releasing myself from needing her to make it right. Ethan and I got married 2 summers later, nothing fancy. Just us, our closest friends, wildflowers in mason jars, and a playlist made from the songs we'd sent each other during our slow burn courtship. When I walked down the aisle, I wasn't nervous, I was grounded. Ethan smiled at me like I was sunrise, and said, "You've always known who you are. I'm just lucky you let me walk beside that fire." We exchanged vows we wrote ourselves. Mine ended with, "You didn't save me. You saw me saving myself and chose to stay." His ended with, "You are my favorite author. Let's write the rest together." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. I don't know what Haley's doing now. I don't need to, because the truth is, some stories don't end with a big twist, some end quietly with peace. And for the first time in my life, that was enough.